It was just after 2 a.m. when the motion light flicked on. I watched through the window, heart pounding, as a figure crept across my porch for the third night in a row. This time, the package waiting for her wasn't from Amazon. It was from me. Subscribe. If you believe karma always finds its way home, then stay with me, because this one hit hard. The last few weeks had started to feel like a game I never signed up for. I lived in a quiet, HOA-controlled cul-de-sac, a place that prided itself on community values and neighborhood trust. But somewhere along the line, someone had broken that trust. Packages kept disappearing off my porch, nothing expensive at first. A pair of socks. Some baking supplies. But then, it escalated. My wife's new phone went missing. A $300 order of specialty gear for my reserve unit vanished without a trace. And all the HOA had to say was, maybe check with your neighbors. At first, I thought it was just bad luck. Maybe a delivery error. I checked with the local post office, talked to the drivers. But tracking numbers showed everything was delivered, and always left safely on our porch. After the third disappearance, I installed a motion-activated camera hidden in the porch light. Within 48 hours, I had my answer, and my suspect. It was our neighbor 2 doors down. Everyone knew her as Miss Patricia, the self-appointed HOA enforcer with a permanent scowl and a clipboard that seemed glued to her hand. I watched her on playback, broad daylight, no hesitation. She walked up like she owned the place, snatched the package off my mat, tucked it into her oversized tote bag, and strolled off as if she were returning a book to the library. No guilt, no shame, and no clue that she'd been recorded. I took the footage to the HOA board. Their response? That's not proof. They claimed it could have been edited. They even hinted that I was trying to stir up division in the neighborhood. That's when I realized they weren't going to do anything about her. They were protecting her. Because she was one of them. She was the HOA. My blood boiled. I was raised to believe in law and fairness. I served 10 years in the Navy and 6 more in reserve law enforcement. I believed in due process. But now I was being ignored, disrespected, and robbed by someone hiding behind fake rules and an HOA title. That's when the idea hit me. If they weren't going to stop her, maybe I needed to give her something to take. I spent the next 2 days preparing. I repackaged an old Amazon box and filled it with a surprise, a pressurized bait trap rigged with non-toxic, but deeply unpleasant, skunk oil concentrate. The kind used in wildlife training. Legal. Harmless. But absolutely unforgettable once it hits fabric. I lined the inside with tamper sensors and wrapped it with tape, carefully designed so the effect would only trigger once the box was open fully. I knew how she worked. She'd wait until she got home, then peek inside. I placed the box outside just before sunset on a Tuesday. Weather was clear. Street lights humming. Porch camera armed. My wife watched from the living room with the dog curled at her feet. I stood just inside the foyer, hands on my belt, watching through the peephole like it was a sting operation. By 1:58 a.m., motion alert pinged. Same routine, dark coat, tote bag, swift steps up the drive. She paused at the edge of the porch, glanced left and right, and leaned in. The camera caught it all, her eyes scanning the label, lips curling into a satisfied smirk. She snatched the box and turned on her heel. And I smiled, for the first time in weeks. What happened next? Well, I can only piece it together from neighborhood chatter and what little I saw the next morning. But by 3 a.m., a hazmat-suited cleaning crew was outside Patricia's home. Lights on, windows open, fans blasting. The smell had hit her carpet, her curtains, and even, according to her own HOA report, her emotional support upholstery. At 9 a.m., the HOA board received an anonymous packet, porch cam footage, time-stamped logs, and a notarized list of missing packages I had reported, each one cross-referenced with Patricia's visits. All legal, all time-stamped, and all about to blow wide open. By Wednesday morning, Patricia's house smelled like a wildlife rescue center in the middle of summer. The HOA tried to keep the incident under wraps, but it was too late. Her front porch was taped off, and contractors were hauling out furniture in sealed plastic bags. Word spread fast. And yet, somehow, she still hadn't learned. That afternoon, I found a passive-aggressive note taped to my door. "Tampering with mail is a federal offense," it read in bold marker. Signed, Chairwoman Patricia, HOA. No mention of theft. No apology. No shame. Just a thinly veiled threat. I kept the note. It was exactly what I needed. You see, Patricia had gotten away with a lot over the years. She'd fined people for leaving trash cans out 5 minutes too long. She'd threatened to have a neighbor's car towed for being visually unappealing. She once made a teenage boy cry by photographing him skateboarding and sending the pictures to his mother with the caption, "Gang activity?" And all of it technically legal under the HOA charter, because she'd rewritten it herself 5 years ago, adding clauses and bylaws no one else noticed, until it was too late. But now she had crossed a federal line. Multiple times. And I had everything documented. Still, I knew if I went straight to the police, she'd spin it. Say I doctored the footage. Say I was harassing her. So instead, I used the tactic I'd learned during intel briefings back in the service. Let the target overreach. Give them rope, and they'll hang themselves with it. That weekend, I received another package, a replacement for the stolen gear. This one I retrieved immediately and placed indoors. But later that evening, I left the old, empty box outside. Not baited this time. Just suggestively present. Within hours, it vanished. Gone. She'd struck again. Only this time, she didn't notice the secondary lens I'd installed across the street, in my friend's window. Different angle. Better lighting. Her face, perfectly visible. Her tote bag, bursting with unopened parcels. I made copies of every clip. Uploaded them to a secure drive. Sent a backup to my brother, who works in federal logistics enforcement. Then I waited. Not for her next theft. No, that part was done. I waited for her next move. Because now that I had cornered her, she would do what all people like her do when threatened, retaliate publicly. It came Monday morning. I stepped outside to retrieve the trash bin and found my lawn marked with 3 orange flags, violations pending, unauthorized lawn ornaments, they read. The ornaments in question? 2 solar-powered pathlights and a ceramic gnome my wife had placed near the rose bushes. HOA code didn't prohibit them. I checked. But Patricia was pushing. Testing. Trying to provoke me into reacting badly so she could twist the narrative. That's when I knew it was time to end this. I compiled every incident. The thefts. The footage. The intimidation. I drafted a formal letter to the HOA's Oversight Committee, not the neighborhood board, but the municipal compliance office that monitored HOAs for abuses of power. Most residents didn't even know it existed. But I did. I dealt with them during an old post-disaster FEMA contract review. I submitted the entire case file, videos, screenshots, witness accounts, and even Patricia's own note threatening me with a law she herself was breaking. I followed every rule. Every chain of command. No shortcuts. Just cold, methodical exposure. 2 weeks passed in silence. Then, without warning, city inspectors showed up on her doorstep. Not 1, 3. They stayed for hours. Neighbors peeked through blinds. Rumors swirled. The next morning, Patricia's smug little sign, HOA Chairwoman, was missing from her yard. Her daily walks with a clipboard ceased. And by the following Friday, an official letter hit every mailbox on our street, HOA under immediate review for charter violations. Interim leadership appointed. All fines suspended. Investigations ongoing. She wasn't just losing her power. She was losing her crown. By Monday evening, Patricia's carefully constructed illusion of authority began crumbling. Her once daily patrols, clipboards, camera phone, and judgmental glare had stopped entirely. She was seen leaving her house only once, flanked by 2 unfamiliar men in gray polos, likely from the HOA's legal team. Neighbors whispered. Some even knocked on my door to thank me, not directly, of course, but in vague, grateful terms. Things feel calmer lately. I didn't take credit. I didn't need to. The truth had started leaking like rain through a cracked foundation, and the storm hadn't even begun. Patricia's grip on the HOA board had been absolute for nearly 7 years. Most residents had no idea that the elections she orchestrated were, at best, performative. She'd use obscure bylaws to disqualify anyone who opposed her, paperwork errors, missed deadlines, irrelevant background checks. In the end, only her chosen allies ever made it to the board. They rubber-stamped everything. That system worked until someone, me, exposed a federal crime that made the whole machine legally radioactive. The city's compliance division had launched a formal audit of the HOA's charter and its leadership practices. But more than that, Patricia's personal behavior was under scrutiny. Theft of mail is a federal felony. Tampering with federal property carries separate charges. And now that the victim was someone with military clearance and a squeaky clean record, no lawyer wanted to touch her case with a 10-foot pole. Even her longtime HOA attorney, Mr. DeGrasse, filed for recusal. She was burning bridges faster than she could walk across them. But Patricia wasn't the type to retreat quietly. Wednesday morning, I received a certified letter. Inside was a printed complaint, official HOA letterhead, typed in bold font, with her name at the bottom. It accused me of deliberate entrapment, unauthorized surveillance, and endangering neighborhood harmony. The real kicker. She requested a restraining order against me. I laughed, audibly, alone in my kitchen, before handing it to my wife, who just raised an eyebrow and said, "Oh honey, she's unraveling." Still, we treated it seriously. I forwarded everything to the city investigator, who replied with 3 words, "Already in motion." Patricia must have sensed it. By Thursday, the audit findings reached the neighborhood. A formal bulletin was issued, emailed and mailed, per legal requirement. It read, HOA leadership suspended pending further investigation. Interim Board of Trustees instated by Municipal Oversight Authority. The kicker. One of the new trustees was my next-door neighbor, Mr. Klein, a quiet retiree she once fined for having unpainted garden rocks. Now he had her job, and he didn't waste time. The very next day, the new board convened in a community meeting. For the first time in years, residents showed up en masse. Folding chairs filled, lawn chairs overflowed. Someone even brought lemonade. It felt less like a bureaucratic review and more like a liberation rally. Mr. Klein took the mic and opened simply, "There will be no more retaliatory fines. We're here to serve the community, not police it." Applause followed. Heads nodded. And when Patricia tried to speak, just tried, they cut her mic. Her voice, once feared, now fell flat in silence. But there was one last twist. That weekend, I received a knock on the door. Not Patricia. Not city officials. A federal courier. Certified envelope. Inside was an official acknowledgement from the USPS Office of the Inspector General. My footage had been used to open a broader investigation into HOA-related mail thefts in the region. My report had triggered something much bigger. They thanked me, formally. I stood there, stunned, holding the letter like a trophy I hadn't expected but quietly deserved. And then, the news broke. A local paper ran a headline, HOA leader under federal investigation for mail theft. Her name was printed in bold. The article was careful, no assumptions, just facts. But those facts were enough. Her image, her reputation, her entire sense of superiority, it cracked on impact. Neighbors printed the article and taped it to their doors. Teenagers made memes. Someone added "Thief of the Year" under her name in the community directory. It was over. Not with a bang, but with 1,000 whispers and one final envelope. 3 weeks after Karen's downfall began, silence settled over the neighborhood. Not peaceful silence, awkward silence. The kind that hangs over a street where everyone's still processing what happened. Her porch light no longer flickered on every hour. The security camera she'd pointed directly at my house was removed. Her prized HOA parking sign, once bolted to the sidewalk like a badge of honor, lay discarded behind her shrubs. No one missed it. Not even her. But I knew better than to relax. Someone like Karen never quits. They retreat, recalibrate, and return meaner. That's why I left my own surprise. Just one last reminder, nestled in a legal envelope taped to her door. Inside, a formal invoice for tampering with government-registered surveillance equipment. Not from me, from my unit. Her fingerprints had been documented on the fake box. I didn't press charges, but I didn't erase the evidence either. It was the kind of warning predators understand. We're watching now. Carefully. Legally. Permanently. Patricia, yes, Karen's real name, vanished from HOA meetings entirely. Some say she was banned. Others say she resigned in exchange for the audit, halting further investigation into her past fines and forged notices. Honestly, I didn't care. What mattered is that she was gone. Stripped of power, authority, and worst of all, her illusion of control. She couldn't boss anyone around with her smug voice anymore. Couldn't threaten fines, couldn't inspect lawns, couldn't judge us like she ruled a gated kingdom. I walked past her house that Saturday morning. She peeked through the blinds. I saw her. She saw me. No words were exchanged. But something passed between us, something final. She was no longer dangerous. Just defeated. The neighborhood transformed almost overnight. Kids rode bikes on the sidewalks again. A neighbor threw a barbecue without needing HOA-approved permits. Mr. Lambert painted his mailbox bright orange, just because he liked it. No one complained. The petty, invisible rules that once strangled the community vanished with her. Freedom, real and mundane, had returned. Still, the mailbox Karen once violated remained a symbol. Not of conflict, but of resolve. I left it there, dent and all. Every time I opened it, I remembered the lesson. Stand your ground, but do it smart. Do it right. Use the law. Let the truth burn slowly through their lies. And when it does, they can't hide behind their fake titles or flimsy bylaws. They'll fall. They always do. Weeks later, a small white SUV pulled into her driveway. A moving company. Quiet, discreet. She didn't wave goodbye. She didn't slam doors or curse at neighbors. She simply left. Packed up and disappeared. No farewell notice from the HOA, no meeting minutes. Just absence. I learned later that she'd taken a job in a different state. Some community outreach position. The irony wasn't lost on me. People like her never learn, they just move on, hoping the next town won't fight back. But they will. Someday, someone will catch her again. Just like I did. That's how cycles break. The neighborhood newsletter came out the following month. No mention of Karen. Just a line from the new board. We appreciate all residents who stand up for fairness and transparency. We build this place together. I clipped it. Framed it. Not for pride. For proof that when you fight back smart, you win.